You need to be bored. It feels as if we don't know how to be bored anymore. Everywhere we look, there's a phone, there's a TV, there's a laptop. We are constantly distracted and we need to be bored. I really want to talk about this, so let's dive in. But before I dive in, hi, my name is Shah. Welcome to my new series, Tragically Inattentive and Distracted. In other words, tired. This is where I let my little ADHD brain go down rabbit holes that it's been thinking about. And I just talk, and hopefully, you will talk back. And we can have a little chit chat. And again, like I said in the previous video, this chair just makes me want to go back and forth, back and forth. So I do apologize if you're not a fan of watching someone swinging around in a chair. You are free to go because as a grown-ass woman, my ADHD still be raging even with my medication, which means I still be doing some weird stuff. But anyway, I'm on here and chat about boredom and why it's good for us. And as someone with, as I said, it's part of my personality now. It's who I am, okay? It's who I am. As someone with ADHD, I hate. Whoa, Lord. Oh my God. I hate with a passion, a burning passion. I hate being bored. I honestly can't stand it. It's so painful. But I have come to learn to appreciate it and to be okay with it. Maybe it's old age. I'm not that old, but maybe it's just the wisdom of getting older. But the more this phone, okay, well, the phone is there, but imagine this. I actually miss when the phones were like this. Like, okay, I'm getting distracted. You see, you see, this is why this is. Anyway, getting distracted. But the more these phones are just in our hands, the more or less bored we are. Let's actually get started. But the more you look on the internet and the more you look on social media, it does feel as if Gen Z and millennials, we are much more aware of how the ever evolving, ever changing, this fast, constant busyness of social media has made us a little bit dangerously close to the edge of social media addiction. Some of us are just full out addicted to social media. And I appreciate that there's a rising awareness of this, but I do think that uh, I do think hmm, I do think that something that not most of us are talking about is the fact that we need to be bored. And because we are always, or because we have so much access to information and to our phones, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's in between, we are never bored as people. But also to tie it into what I spoke about previously in the first episode of the series is being chronically offline. I think even that push and that trend of being chronically offline was a way for people to explore boredom. A lot of all of what was being said was how to be offline, how to be off your phone, how not to be addicted. But we weren't talking about why we are all desiring to be offline. And I think it's because we actually are desiring boredom, but we don't understand, or not many have a way to articulate what we're looking for. And it doesn't sound very fun to say, you know what we're actually looking for as people is to be bored. But I think it's my humble opinion. I think we all just want to be bored. Okay, that's generally what I think. And I'm getting cold, so I'm gonna switch the aircon off. Don't switch me off. I'm switching it. Don't switch me off. Also, I just realized the more comfortable I get with filming these things, the more like millennial cringe that I have. I didn't know that was so cringy. Okay, so I think the reason why we're not expressing that we actually need to be bored is that boredom is essentially unpleasant. No one likes it. Especially if you're neurodivergent, like I said, like me, boredom can feel so painful. But boredom, true boredom, is so important. It helps us self-regulate. It helps us communicate to our brain in the current moment what you're lacking. It gives you some type of meaning. It gives you motivation to learn about yourself, to do something about yourself. Being bored is actually the perfect place for problem solving. So think about it. You're sitting, you're staring out into the sky, into the distance, whatever. up, maybe you're lying on a patch of grass. Guys, I miss going to parks. Anyway, maybe you're lying on a patch of grass and you're just looking out. And in that time, in that moment, yes, it's beautiful, but in that moment, you're also a little bit bored before maybe you can even think, oh, I think I'm bored. But in that moment, there is a sense of boredom. But it's also self-regulating. That's the moment you start thinking, wow, the world is so beautiful, or wow, my day has been so lovely, or maybe it hasn't been so great, but this time I feel like I can reflect on some things, and this is what I want to change, this is what I want to work on, this is what I want to do. Let me see, let me make some plans about how to change this, how to do this, how to do that. And so it is true boredom, or what I would like to call beautiful boredom, really does trigger some, I would say, nostalgic memories, beautiful memories, maybe not so nice memories, self reflection. It can give you time to search for meaning or anything meaningful. And so I do feel re if you rethink boredom, it can be something very meaningful and very wonderful and helpful for ourselves. But these phones, they are distracting us so much to the point where when we're bored, we're reaching for them. And then when we're on them, it's just double irony. When we're on them, we're even more bored because they're frying our dopamine senses at this point. I wish for you and for me that we could come back to the truest sense of being bored, which is not reaching for our phones whenever we don't want to feel something, or we don't want to think about something, or when we just don't know what to think about and we just reach for our phones, but to just sit and, you know what, even if it's just staring at a wall. What was that meme of that kid that was like, if you can't be on your phone, what are you going to do? And she's like, stare at a wall.
So suddenly you're going to have a lot more time to fill. And what will you do?
Stare at a wall.
Yeah, kid, you were right. You were right, kid. Staring at a wall, because boredom is good for us. So I read this paper and I just really liked what it said. So I'm just going to read it for you. A positive relationship can indicate that boredom drives digital media use. But it can also suggest that digital media use intensifies boredom. Accumulating evidence shows that digital media use, rather than reducing boredom, casually increases it. I feel like in a lot of times in this digital age that we're in, when we are bored, we immediately reach for our phones. And even though we think we're doing something productive, so as I know personally, sometimes when I do get bored and I just don't want to sit and think, I will go on social media and I will search something. So maybe I will search the best literature book to read right now, or the best classical book to read now. Classical or classic? The best classic literature book to read right now. And then I'm just down a rabbit hole, and then I've consumed a bunch of information and I don't even know what I learned after consuming that information. I then am so uninspired, I'm just exhausted. And so my next jump is to say, oh, let me just watch this really long YouTube video. Don't switch me off yet, okay? Just don't switch me off yet. You can be bored after me, okay? Don't switch me off yet. But I do think it is just really funny to think about the fact that at this time and age, when we're bored, we just end up being extra bored because we're not thinking for ourselves. Or even if we think we're thinking for ourselves, we're just consuming so much rather than creating. And I feel as if this is a different conversation, but this also ties into we're constantly consuming and not creating enough. And we need to push ourselves, especially if you are someone who's creative, which I honestly believe everyone is creative, even if you are some math genius or some not so, even if you're a math genius or a painter or someone who thinks they have zero talents. I do think that we're all creative, and the more we consume, the less we create. And I just think that's really sad. And then there's AI on top of everything. Ugh, God. Anyway, let me calm down. But this article is actually very interesting because they go down and list a bunch of experiments that they did where they proved that when people are bored, they're just reaching for their phones, and then they get bored of their phones, but no one sits in the boredom. No one sits with their mind, and no one sits to think. And then I was watching another video, actually. Maybe if I find it, I'll link it down as well. about this professor talking about how there was a study done, and I don't remember the details specifically, but in that they were testing boredom and what people do when they're bored. And they had a red button that they weren't supposed to push and was going to give you a shock or something like that. And instead of people just being bored, sitting with their boredom, many people chose to shock themselves. And I did think that it was almost a poetic symbolism of what it feels like to be in this digital age, where instead of just sitting with our thoughts, instead of sitting with our boredom, we're reaching to our phones, to something that will give us a shock of over information and consuming instead of creating. And it just makes me a little bit sad. And on top of that, we mustn't think of boredom as a state of emptiness, but a state where psychologically we're thinking, we're using our minds for new and beautiful pursuits, for new passions or new dreams or dreams that we have and things that we want to achieve, and encouraging ourselves to sit in our minds and sit in the quiet and evaluate our current goals, evaluate our future goals, and nourish our imagination. I really do think that boredom is important for us to feel connected to ourselves, connected to who we truly are, and to help us understand who we are. Because I think social media has a very dangerous habit of feeding us or telling us who we are in a very passive way. And so I think most of the time we are passive consumers of what we're looking at in social media. And suddenly you're out here wondering if you have a symmetrical face. You're wondering if you have high cortisol. You're wondering if you have lipedema, I don't know what it's called, but you're wondering all these things about yourself. You're so aware about what could be wrong with you instead of what is glorious about you, what is beautiful about yourself. And we're unable to see that or to know that. And honestly, I don't want to sound like an old woman, but it makes me really sad for the younger generation, because I do wonder how many, sorry, I don't know why that made me emotional, but I do wonder how many young people are out there with the list of all the wrongs about them instead of all the beauty that they hold. Where I feel like when we were younger, there weren't so many things that were obvious about this could be wrong with you, unless you were reading like a stupid magazine that you saw. But most of the time, it was just a magazine and you were being compared to a celebrity, and something in your brain was like, me, Beyonce, no, 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 you know? But now there are normal, ordinary people on social media that look like celebrities, and that's a different story. But I do think it worries me for the younger generation, especially, but also something that as we also grow older, we also need to be aware of how much social media is captivating our attention and telling us who we are. And we just, again, we just need to be bored. Just be bored, sit in silence, tell yourself who you are, be who you are. But just, yes, I feel like a broken record, but honestly, what I'm trying to say is being bored connects you to who you are. It helps you be in tune with the things that you love and the things that you care about. It helps you learn about yourself and your dreams, and helps you actually problem solve things in your life instead of looking it up on TikTok or talking to ChatGPT how to help you with your life. I'm not judging, but little I'm judging. But I don't have the answers. Obviously, I'm not chat. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a person who just randomly researches things. By the way, all the papers that I research, I will link in the description box so you can read them yourself. But again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not anything. I'm just a girl on the internet saying things. But I do think, in terms of boredom, these are the things that I wish for myself, and I hope that they could be helpful for you. For me, when boredom strikes, which is something that I've been practicing to do, when boredom strikes, in terms of like when I'm on my phone and I'm bored, when that strikes, I pick up one of my hobbies and put the phone down. I pick up a hobby. You know what? That actually always helps me switch into what I call beautiful boredom. I'll pick up my puzzle. The other day I did some painting, or sometimes I do some writing on paper, not on the laptop, on paper, do some writing. I have a beautiful balcony, so sometimes I just sit on the balcony and make myself a little baby. Sit on the balcony and watch people and just let my brain go where it wants to go. And then obviously taking my breaks from social media, which kind of are in par with when I do my hobbies. That is my break, but more intentional breaks. And then another thing is I sound like a broken record, but it's just putting my phone away after a certain time. Right now, like I said in the previous episode, it's at 8:30. As I come to the end of this video, I just feel as if this is going to be the theme of my life these days. It really is just that phone. It really is just the damn phone. Boredom is good for you. Put the phone away. Get into your mind. Enjoy being alone and thinking and dreaming and problem solving and being connected to who you are. Your life has meaning. Stop looking at other people's lives and enjoy your life. And now, switch me off from that screen and go have a beautiful morning, day, or evening, or whatever time it is. Bye.